Okay, fine. Okay. So in this session, I'll be dealing with some of the basics of images. How do we read them and how do we process them in the MATLAB software? Okay. So the basics I'm actually skipping because we have limited time. So I'll be concentrating mostly on the coding part. So these slides will be shared to you so you can look into the basics. This is how the window looks like for MATLAB. So we can see here this is an MATLAB version which is on 2010. But it depends. Actually, it is 2020 also, so you can include even the latest version. Okay. So now this is your menu bar, and this is your command prompt, command window, and workspace. Whatever memory variables are created in the MATLAB, when you run it, all those memory variables and what are the values stored in it, all of them will be shown in this workspace. Okay, and this is the command prompt, you can say. So here you can have some command line instructions if you want to do a quick test on any particular query, whether it is correct or not. So you can just check it out here. Okay. And this is your file directory from which you have opened your file or where you want to store and so on. So this is your basic editor of the MATLAB. Now you can have, if you are new to the MATLAB, then you can go for the help button on MATLAB. So where you have the complete description of all the commands and what all you can do, programming, C, graphics, 3D, visualization also you can do, and all the things you can do, programming, data analysis you can perform, user guidance, desktop tools, everything you can do with this. So if you want to have a specific knowledge on a particular domain, then you can just click on that and you can get the complete information on that particular tool. How do we use it with the sample examples? And there are certain demos also present in this. Like you can see working in the department environment video demo, right? So MATLAB has given all the facilities to get an user-friendly nature with the coding, and with the demos, live sessions also you can go through, and you can get a good idea on how to use this tool. Okay. Now, right now, I'll be directly going to my main concern, which is ML-based imagery, ML-based MATLAB coding. How do we do ML for computer vision? Because my expertise is in computer vision area, so I'll be looking only in the vision area. And in vision, how do we use ML and how do we code in MATLAB to get our features extracted and so on? So these are the basic operators. What are there in the MATLAB? These are all the operators. So you can, I think all of you are teacher faculty, so I need not discuss much about this logical operators and so on. So I'll be just going to MATLAB functions. If else statements, you can go through these, all of them. Okay, now coming to the images. So a general image can be read using a simple command like I equal to imRead is a function which reads an image for you. Okay, now you can see that there is an open and close bracket, and in the single quotation here it is a file name, the image name, whatever you are going to read. Now image name and what is the type of that image you have mentioned here. It is BMP, and like you can see here there are multiple types of images which exist. BMP, GIF, HDF, JPEG, anything. Also according to the type of image you are working on, accordingly you can read them. Okay. So I equal to imRead of the file name, sorry, image name followed by the type of that image. So when you type this, your image is completely read and stored in an array called I, which is of 2-dimensional. Okay, which is of 2-dimensional. Now this I can be any type of image. Like in the first class I have said, it could be a binary image, it could be a grayscale image, or it could be a color scale image also. Okay, so let's say we have a color image here. This is the one which we are reading, this image. Now, if I am reading this image, by looking at it, it is clear that it is a color image. So that means the I will have 3 components, R, G, and blue. So you can see here, I have here image I. So image I in the sense like to display. Okay. So this command is to display, and I just want to see how much memory is occupied, how many matrices are there in this image I, and so on. For that, you can type the command as who is I. Okay, who is I. So when you type this command, I'm getting this particular statement result. So you can see that image name is I, and its size is 512 cross 512 cross 3. So that means that rows and columns are 512 cross 512, and since it is an RGB image, so you have three different matrices for R, G, and V, right? So that is why that is what it indicates, R, G, and V. So three matrices are there of size 512 cross 512, and the total bytes it is occupying as 75,000 because that it is an 8-bit image. Okay, so based on the bit type of the image, your total bytes will be occupied for that respectively, right? So this is a simple command to read an image. Okay, now you can see that the color spectrum again, all the image matrices, you can look into the color depths as well. So this is the color depth where you can see that these are the values for combinations of intensity values. Okay. Now this import, see, IM read is actually to read an image. Now IM show is a command to display that image onto the result. Okay, IM read, IM show. So it will be showing. This is the image which I read, which is stored in I, and I'm using a function of MATLAB, IM show. So this is your figure labeled as figure 1, and this is the image which I have read. So it has been displayed. Okay. Now, if you want to get the size of that, this is what the size 479 600 into 3. So since it's an RGB, so you have three matrices. Now we are converting this three matrices form. That means RGB image to grayscale. That means I'm converting the RGB image to 0 to 256 intensities. Okay. So for that you can have directly a function in MATLAB RGB to gray. Okay. RGB 2 stands for 2 gray. So I'm converting an RGB image to gray format, which is I. So now it is stored in a new matrix called I gray, where you don't have the three components, but rather it will have only two components. Now, if I try to display, it will look something like this. You can see the difference. Here it was a color image, and it is here a grayscale image. Okay. Now, color image I have converted into a grayscale. So now the memory space for this particular one is only 479 cross 600. So cross 3 is not. Yes, pardon?
Ma'am, slides are not viewed.
Slides are not visible?
Yes, ma'am.
They are visible, I think, to everybody. Any participant couldn't see the slides? Yes,
Ma'am, it is clear. It is clear, and the
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
slides are
sorry,
able
ma'am.
to see.
I think it's problem at your end. Just look into
Okay,
it.
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So like this, you can convert a gray color image to a grayscale image. So now alternatives of IM show, then when you type IM show, it is simply a figure displayed on that. Now you can use other tools also of the MATLAB, IM say image SC and image IM tool, image of I, and so on. So there are various ways to display, and you can use one more one as like in the same figure. If I want to display multiple images, then you need to go for subplots. Okay, divide this particular screen of the figure into columns and rows, then you can display multiple figures into this. So that can be done by using the subplots of MATLAB function. Okay, so whoever is interested, they can go through, Google it, you will get all the help in the MATLAB tool as well, toolbox itself. Okay. So now this is how a matrix is stored. Now in MATLAB, you have a very good way to represent the matrices, because in general, if I have to create an array like this of 3 cross 3, then I have to create in the command something like, suppose I have to write the code Let me show that first, then it will see. Suppose if I have to create this matrix, okay, this matrix, then I need to write these many lines in the command prompt, right, in normal general programming. So I have to create this as a black and so on. So I have to create these many lines of code in normal programming. So it might take around, so it will take a huge time complexity. But rather, if you go for MATLAB, it is very simple that if you you can simply write like A equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Simple. What you do generally on your copy pen paper, right? So if I do like this, in memory, it is getting stored like this as a matrix form. Okay. Now, similarly, if I have to create a matrix of simply zeros of particular set of m cross n, then you can simply write B equal to zeros of 3 comma 3, where 3 rows and 3 columns are completely zeros. Right? And then you can make it as ones also, create a matrix with all ones. So it is very simple. With simple one command, I can create any number of matrices. Okay. Now, if you want to display this matrix, it's simple. IM show of I. So this gets displayed on the screen. Okay. So like this, you can create. And if I have to access this matrix, now how do I access? Suppose if I talk about A of 2 comma 1, so second row, first column. So I'm talking about this cell. Okay. Now you can see I need not write a for loop and all. Simply in the command prompt, I can type A of 2 comma 1. So I got the value of that particular cell. Okay. Similarly, can it be used to extract the whole column or row? I just want to extract only this column or particular this column. I don't want other values. So then it is also very simple in matrix. You just have to write A within the brackets colon comma 2. So all colon indicates all values of this column. Okay, all values of column 2. So I'm talking about this one. Okay, so if I type like this, I'll get only that one particular column values. Okay. Similarly, if I want to have only a particular row values, then it is very simple, or particular column values, and that means suppose if I'm typing like this, A of 1 colon 2 comma 2. So I'm actually talking about, see, this is my matrix, right? So I'm talking about the second column and the values of first and second row. Sorry, second column, second both. So that means actually I'm talking about the second column and the values from 1 to 2. So 2 and 5. Okay. Second column values from 1 to 2. So 2, 5. So I'm getting the values here. Suppose if I had here 1 colon 3, then I would have got the result as 2, 5, and 8. Okay. So like this, I can particularly access a particular column in a matrix or a particular row in a matrix. Okay. So that is how you can access these values. Now, how do I do the arithmetic? It is again very simple. I can directly use the operator plus, minus, multiplication, division. Like unlike other programming languages, you need to write a lot of complicated codes for that, and it is a time complex one. So here it is simple. A plus A, it simply adds the two matrices, provided A and B are of same dimensions. That is a general mathematical funda. So otherwise they will not be added, right? So you can directly apply this operator. So you are going to get this result. So A is added with its own values of A. Corresponding cells have been added. Similarly, you can apply A into B, A dot product, and so on. So these are in the depth of mathematics. So I'm not going into that depth today in today's session. Okay, but you can directly apply all of these operators directly on the matrices in MATLAB. So now these are all the logical operators. Now you can see one logical operator I'll tell you, which is very interesting. Suppose if I have this matrix A, I have a matrix A, and I'm trying to find out, see, I have a command here. Forget about the left-sided one. Just look into the right-sided. Find of A equal to 7, right? Find is a function. and find some value 7, where all is the 7 in the matrix A. Are you getting? Find all, where all do we have 7 in the matrix A? I want to find. Now, if I talk about A, wherever it is there in this particular one, then I need to know which particular cell on column it belong to, right? So the find function will find the respective column and row of value where the 7 is. So suppose if I look into this matrix, there is a 7 at this place. So this is third row, first column, right? Third row, first column. So see in the result, row is 3, column is 1, right? So this is how you can directly find a specific value what you want to check in the matrix. No need to write a for loop for A equal to 1 to M, for J equal to 1 to K, and then write an if condition, generally what we do in a programming, right? But here it's not required. You can directly have a conditional check on the matrices directly. Okay. Similarly, here there is one more condition. I just want to find out the values which are greater than 7 in this matrix. Okay. The values which are greater than 7, if I have to find, you can simply write a condition or the function which you have the MATLAB, you can directly use it, saying find of A greater than 7. So now what all values are greater than 7 in A, you need to find all those indices, right? You need to get all those indices. So you have here the matrix greater than 7, you have two values, 8 and 9. Now you need to get the indices of 8 as well as the indices of 9. So row and column of 8, row and column of 9. So you got here rows and columns of the corresponding values. Okay. So similarly here we have used A less than 5. So you can see less than 5 you have 4 cells 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. So like this you can find out the logic. You can apply directly the logical operators on the variables. Okay. So it reduces a lot of time in accessing the cells of the matrix, right? So this is what already I said, like you need to create lots of loops and then you need to find out this matrix to be generated. So these are some control flows. So I'm skipping them because you can go through them. Basics are very easy and you can find out that. So now I'll be dealing with the main content of this workshop, which is ML for image processing. And specifically under image processing, I'm targeting only image classification, which I have discussed already in my first session. So I'll be dealing with the coding part, how we can achieve that. Okay. Now in the image classification, I said in general image classification process will be like this. See, if you understand this particular concept, whatever I'm discussing now, you can apply the same thing to your whatever application your area is. Until feature extraction, the process will be different. But once the features are extracted, then the remaining process could be used as I say in this particular session, as I discuss in this particular session. Okay. Now, feature extraction process is according to the application what you have decided or the project what you have decided. So, in right now, I'll tell you how to extract those features, and then how do we do the clustering on that, and then how do we apply ML technique classification through coding. I'm not going into the concepts, only in coding. How do we do, and how do we find this result? Okay. Now, this is what the general process is. If I am talking about image classification, then I have multiple categories of images, category 1, category 2, category 3. So faces, flowers, and chair, and many. Okay. So now in the query, I have given a face. Now it has to check with the database and features of all these, features of all of these, features of all of them. And whichever it is having a perfect match, it has to classify accordingly that this query belongs to face, or this query belongs to flower, or this query belongs to chair. So you need to find out that result. So that is what called as classification. Now, if you have to do that classification, first step is you have to find the features. Okay. Now, once your features are found, how do we represent them? So you have to use your bag of words. Okay. Now, once I have constructed the bag of words, the feature representation of this image, then I need to apply ML technique. Okay. ML technique, any ML technique. Okay. So let's see how do we do that. So let's say I have certain categories of images like binocular, crocodile, dolphin, elephant, faces, and panda. I have some categories of images with me. Let's say I have in each category, I have more than 100 images in each category. Okay. So I have now on this, I'll train my model. Okay. On this training data, I'll train my model. And once I train it, I have a query image, some random query image. Now I have to find out whether that query image belongs to binocular, or it belongs to crocodile, or it belongs to dolphin, or faces, or panda. I have to see this. Okay, let's look into how we can perform this in coding. Okay. So these are some of the sample images of binoculars. So I have some binocular images. These are the crocodile images. Okay. If you clearly observe, there are lots of crocodiles. Then followed by elephant images. Okay, like this, I have the multiple data set images with me, so on which I want to train my model. Okay, so now I'm clear with my images. Like these are my categories. These are how my images looks like, and all the images are of colors, right? Okay. Now on this image, each and every image of all the categories, I need to construct a feature vector. Okay. On this, I have to construct a feature vector, as well as on the last image, I have to construct a feature vector. Now, how do we do those? Feature extraction, right? Now, feature extraction can be done in multiple ways, as you have gone through many sessions in this workshop. So I'll discuss only here 2 or 3 methods, but not in terms of technical concepts. I'll talk only in the programming one. Okay. So now I'm first talking about feature extraction on texture feature extraction. Okay, I will be discussing here 3 things. How do we extract texture features? How do we extract surf features? And similarly, how do I extract hog features, histogram of gradients? Okay, so I'll be discussing 3 variants of feature extraction process. Okay. Now let's see. This is my coding, which we have done in MATLAB. So initially, as everybody knows, we need to clear everything, right? So I have taken one image here. I am read mountain.jpg. So I have taken one image. Now texture features cannot be extracted directly on color image. Okay. Texture features cannot be extracted directly on color image. So I have converted that image to grayscale. Okay. RGB to gray. So color image has been converted into gray. Now on this grayscale image, since all the images are of different variations, right? As you can see, all are of not of same size, right? My training data is not of same size. To make it common, we have resized all the images to pi 12 cross pi 12 to maintain our normalization. Okay. So we have resized all the images to I. So I'm resizing it. Now I'll tell you first this figure. If you understand, it will be easy. So let's say, suppose I have taken this image. Okay, I've taken this image where you have mountains, and so is now from this image I want to extract texture features. Okay, now to extract the texture features, I need to first go for block by block, because texture features are extracted only on a block, not on a point. Okay, so but in general, taking a block by block process, that means I need to first take first block, then I go for the second block, third block, and so on till the last block. Okay, but all blocks are not important as per the classification approach is said. Okay, all the blocks are not important. So I'll be looking only for important blocks. Okay, let's say those important blocks I'm taking from surf points. Okay, surf. Okay, now speed up robust feature extraction. Okay, now surf, what it does is it will SURF, let me explain first SURF. Now, scale invariant feature transform. SURF is an advancement of the SIFT process. What it does is, it takes a block by block on the image, one block at a time. Now, that block is divided into 4 cross 4 grids of cells. Okay, that means the original block is of size 16 cross 16. Okay, now on this 16 cross 16 block, I'll further divide them into 4 cross 4. So I'm talking about this cell. Okay, now when I talk about this particular cell 4 cross 4, now you can observe there are 4 cross 4, that means 16 values, right? 16 values. Now under these 16 values, you can observe their arrow marks are different here, right? So this indicates every pixel is having a directionality in different behavior. Okay, some are to the horizontal direction, some are the diagonal direction, some are to the left direction, some are the upward direction, some are the downward direction. Right? Now features, how do we, feature means what? Actually the properties of that block. Right? Feature means the properties of that block. Now properties of that block means if I am talking about a matrix image, then it is actually the orientations of the edges. Okay, orientations of the edges. That means I'll calculate a orientation matrix for each and every block. Okay, so see, you can see in this particular block I have this pattern. Okay, see, I have maximum domination towards the left diagonal, and then to the upward, and then to the rightward, and there is a least priority towards this direction. Okay, now that means I'm getting these features from this particular block. Okay, so now from each block I'm taking around 16 blocks है total में, और there are 16 blocks in total. Now each block will have 8 orientations. No, so that means 8 orientations for each block, right? So totally I have 16 blocks, so it is 16 into 8 orientations. So totally I'll get 128 features for one particular block. Are you getting now? Only for this particular block, I'm getting 128 features, right? Like this, I'll have many blocks in the image, right? So you can observe. So for each one, now this one, whatever I'm talking about here, this is actually a histogram of gradients, right? How many orientations are there in this direction? How many orientations are existing in diagonal? How many are out to the up, and so on. So this is the feature vector, okay, of that particular block. Okay, now if I have that information for every point, suppose I have a point here and have 128 features of all orientations. Okay, I have one point here and have all 128 features of this. Okay, now if I have all 128 features in my training data set, suppose this image belongs to my training data set. Now this image is my test data set, suppose. Okay, this is image in the test data set. Now generally when I match these two without this scale invariant transformation, now these two matches will not be possible because this is in a good orientation, but it is not in a good orientation. So obviously my any algorithm will fail to match these two, right? But if I talk about SIFT1 or SURF, which is an advanced version of SIFT, so since it takes the features of each and every point and taking that feature in terms of orientations, like what is a dominating orientation towards a diagonal, towards up, towards a down, and so on. So since the histograms are maintained on the orientations, when I have the query image in a different orientation also, it is able to match because the features are constructed on the orientations of that particular block, not a pixel to pixel mapping or color mapping. Okay, so that is how SURF resolves the problems of scale invariance and rotation invariance. Now rotation invariance means though my training data is like this, but if my test data got rotated, then also the SURF gives the better match. Okay. Similarly, illumination effect will also be there. Like let's say that all the data set images are very clear with illumination and enhancement. But what if my test data is not clear at all? If the contrast is not clear in that image, then obviously any algorithm, whatever you use, that will fail, right? So, but SERP, since it extracts the features on orientations of the block, so it can match that properly. Okay, so that is the beauty of this particular approach called SERP. Okay, for matching, right? So that is why this SERP has been widely adapted in classification approaches, image classification approaches. Okay, now I think this is more than sufficient to describe the importance of SERP. Now let's look into the coding. How do we do it? Okay, so let's say this is my image. On this, I'm applying detect SERP features on I. I is the image. Somebody mic is on. Please off it. Okay. So this is our image. So on this image, Satish, mic ever on. So this is the okay. So on this I'm trying to find the SERP features, SERP points. So with this statement, what happens is you'll get this SERP points, multiple SERP points on the image based on the orientations. So you can get a top 5 points, top 100 points, top 200 points, and so on, right? So once I get the points, that means I get this point here. These are the main orientation points. Now on these points, I want to extract the texture features. Okay. Now I'm cropping them. So I just see, have the points extracted. Now what I do, I just crop this because this region is important for matching. So I'm cropping this region. Similarly, I crop this region and I'll crop this region and I'll crop this region. Like this, I'll crop the important portions of my image. So something, it looks like this. Okay. I'm taking all those particular important regions of my image. Okay. So SERP has been used only to identify the important point, and from those points I'll find out the features. Now I have to find the features for this block, this block, this block, this block, this block, and so on. So I've restricted my feature extraction only for this 20 blocks, right? I'm not taking for all the blocks because these are the main orientation blocks, so I'm working only on these blocks. Okay, so in MATLAB you have a gray component matrix. Actually this gray texture properties are extracted through a concept called gray level co-occurrence matrix, GLCM. Okay, GLCM stands for gray level co-occurrence matrix. So you need to find, first crop the image. I cropped it through this command. Now on that sub image, I created a gray level co-occurrence matrix. On that matrix, I'm finding out 4 texture features called as contrast, correlation, energy, and homogeneity. Okay, I've extracted these features. Okay, there are around 20 features in texture properties, but here I have extracted only 4. If anybody is working on this field, they would have known that how many features do exist in texture properties. Okay, so now on these blocks, I have extracted the features. Now you can observe that these are my features. I have extracted the features from the image. Okay, so that is what the whole study was going on from the past 4 days, that whether you have an image or whether you are talking about a speech or whether you are talking about any type of application like satellite and network data or any data, you need to first extract the features. Now those features can be numeric and non-numeric. Okay, now all the machine learning techniques which we are dealing right now will be on numeric features. So now you can see this whole image has been represented with these features. Okay, so I need not do pixel by pixel mapping. I can just take the image and extract the features. Now those features are, so I have around the features of that image to be 20 cross 4. That's it. Okay, 20 cross 4. So this is my feature vector for this image. Okay, so one image I got 20 cross 4 feature vector. Right now, what we need to do like this, you need to apply for each and every category. Like for this image, I will get 20 cross 4. For this image, I'll get 20 cross 4. And similarly, for this image, I'll get 20 cross 4. Right? Features I have extracted. Similarly, for the other category and the other category. So that means I have to extract the features for all the images or for all the categories. Right? So that is our first step. Like you can see here, have to extract the features. Okay, now once you have done the feature extraction, okay, let's see other two approaches of feature extraction. So through texture feature, I have extracted 4 features for each image, for each block. So for each image, I have 20 cross 4 features. Okay. Now let's say if I talk about surf, as I said here, surf will have, if you see the surf concept, surf will have around, for each point you will have 128 features, right? Texture is holding only 4 features, but here in the surf you can get 128 features in depth, right? So that means the accuracy will be increasing if I replace my texture features with the surf. I'll get more features here, right? Now, how do I get those features in coding? It's very simple. You can apply the code like this. See here, detect surf features points, original image. I got the points. Okay, so how many important points do I have? Either 100 or 250 or 50 or whatever points I have, I get that points here. Now on each and every point, I'll get 128 features. Now that can be extracted through the method extract features on this image on these points. Okay, this is my image on these points. Let's say I have taken 100 points, suppose top 100 points. Now for those 100 points, I need to extract features. Now I have a feature. So now that means I have, like this, I'll have 100 rows because I have 100 points. Now in the columns, I'll have 128 because as I've shown you that SIF expects 128 features, right? So I have 128 features for each image, each point. Okay, for each point. So for 100 points, 128 features. Okay. Now this is our feature vector for that one image. So now we can see for this single image, we extracted the features using texture. These are the features using texture. Similarly, these are the features using surf. Okay. So similarly, you can apply the features, get the features using hog classifier also. So except you can see here extract hog features on that image on the points. Okay, the process is going to same. If you have understood one particular feature extraction process, the remaining things are simply the replica because you have already functions provided, you can directly use them. Okay, so you can use them and get the features for that. So again, I'll get different matrices similar to this for the feature vector map. Okay, let's say now I have the features. Now, what is the next step? As we have seen, I have got features. Then I need to represent them as a one single row for each matrix, right? For that, as I told you in the previous class of mine, we use bag of words. Okay, bag of words. So this is again in-depth knowledge you need actually. So we have used k-means clustering to group them. So for 10 groups we have made here. Features, as I said, we have taken the feature vector and we have grouped into 10 groups. That means I'm taking only 10 properties out of that whole feature sets. So I've grouped in and taken the frequency of each property like this, right? So then I'll get only one dimensional array comprising to this whole image. Okay. For this whole image 100 cross 128, I'm representing as one single bag of word like this, which comprises size to be as 128 plus the frequency of each and every center. Okay, so that will be my feature vector in bag of words representation for each image. Okay. Now, once the feature vectors are ready with me, I need to train it, right? I need to train it. So now to train, I have used here SVM, ML technique SVM. So for SVM, you need two things. One is feature vector. So I have taken the feature vector of texture, feature vector of surf, feature vector of hog, and feature vector of extra. Extra actually indicates with the combination of surf and texture. Okay. So now these are the sizes of that. If this here 572 indicates the total number of images in my data set. Okay. Now, like this, I'll get all the feature vectors for all the images. Now I need to know in the category what is the labeling exactly. To train a model, obviously it is supervised learning technique, so you need to know the label already. Okay. So you need to know the label of all 572 images. Like the first 200 images belongs to the category 1, then next 200 images belongs to category 2, next 200 images belongs to category 3, so on. Like that, you will have to get a labeled array. Okay. So you need this feature vector and the label array, both. Okay. Now these two are taken as the input for SVM ML technique. Now how do we do that? You can see here testing. So you have trained your model. Once that the model is ready, you can apply a model. You have to build a model. Then in that, I'm taking here just C for classification. I'm first checking with surf. Okay. I have a surf label array. That means the feature vector of all the data set images using surf. Okay. Now that means 572 images I have. All those 572 images, what are its features? I have stored in this array. And the corresponding labels. Okay, corresponding labels. Now I need to match with the query. So this is the feature vector of surf, test image. Right? So test image also you need to go with all this process, extraction, feature extraction, and get this feature vector. And then finally construct its bag of words, which is stored in this. Okay. Now I'm taking this trained model with the labels, train feature vector with the labels, and test model, test feature vector. I'm now testing on my SVM. Okay. Now in this result, you will know whether this particular test image belongs to category 1 or category 2 or category 3 or category 4. So it is going to get back your result. Right. So like this, you can use your MATLAB code for taking the features. Then once the features are you got the features, you need to do two things. One is that suppose if your features are too many, like around 200 features or 300 features or something, now all the features will not be useful for classification. Right. So there you need to apply some another technique before applying ML. Before applying ML for classification, you need to apply feature reduction. Okay. Feature reduction will be important in some cases. So you can use feature reduction to remove unwanted features from the feature set and then apply the classification ML technique. Okay. So like that you can do. Or you can apply directly, the entire feature set can be used for classification. Both the ways you can do. But it will always be better if you apply feature reduction. If you have something like you have too many features and most of them are irrelevant, then you can apply dimensionality reduction and then apply the ML so that the accuracy is very high. So this is how the machine works. Let me show you the MATLAB once. Hope the screen is visible. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is your MATLAB tool. I'm working and I'm having a MATLAB M file. Always all your MATLAB uh, classes will have a .m extension, which stands for M file. Okay. Now in this M file, you can have two types of codings. One is your normal class file and one is your function. Okay. A function, as you know, you need to give the input parameters and output parameters. So both. So like that, you can use both the things in this. So now let's see here. This is my function. The same thing, whatever I explained in the MATLAB code, you can see. I have selected the data set here, complete data set path. Now this data set is having all the 6 categories total. Okay. Now from that 5 categories, sorry, I have taken 5 categories in the coding part. So in that there are many categories. So I have taken 1 to 5 categories. Now for each category, I have to read the image. So I have read an image here. Okay. I am read of S. Now I have taken one by one from this folder. Okay. Now from that folder, I have taken that image, one image. Okay. Now on that image, as I told you, I have to resize them. So I have resized it to 512 cross 512. Okay. Now here I have done some normalization. That means you are pre-processing. Okay. Generally in any application, you need to apply pre-processing. So here I have used normalization process where I have taken min of p. It's a formula actually. If you have any concept, you can go with that. This is your normalizing an image. Okay. So I have done a pre-processing so that my image is clear enough. Now once it is clear enough, I'm extracting the features using surf points. So I have extracted the surf features. Okay. Now on these surf features, I have constructed a bag of words. So I have taken the first category features, second category features, third category features, fourth category, and fifth category. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stands for each and every category. Okay. So first category I'm storing in 1, second category 2, third category 3, fourth category 4, and so on. Right? I have stored for surf. Similarly, I repeated the same process with the hog. So the same process, you can see extract hog features. I've taken the features, I constructed the histogram and stored accordingly according to the category. Okay. The same process has been repeated for texture. So I cropped the particular blocks, each and every block, and I've taken the I've converted each and every block into gray level co-occurrence matrix. And from that, I've extracted the features of contrast, correlation, energy, and homogeneity. Okay. Now from that, again, I have done the same thing, that I got the features of first category, second category, third category, fourth category, and fifth category. Right. Okay. Now I have all the features of all the categories. Then what did I do? I have taken the labels. As I said, I need to have to apply SVM. I need to have two things. One is a labeling array and another one is a feature array. So feature array we have already constructed. This is our label array. Okay. Now once we have both, then okay, this is for the test image. For test image also I have taken one image here. You can see it is not a data set. It is one image. Okay, it is not a data set link. It is one image now. Now from that image, again I have constructed same because I'm testing with multiple models. I have again constructed hog features, texture features, as well as the surf features. Okay. So I have all the features for the test query also. Now see here. I am testing. Multi-SVM is my predefined function, which is on classification, multi-model, multi-classifier. It is a multi-classifier. It's not a binary classifier. So I have built it one function called multi-SVM, in which I'm sending the feature vector of training data, the labels, and the feature vector of test data. Okay. Now this particular function model, will classify this particular test feature vector into one of the labels of what we have mentioned, and that result is going to be stored here. Okay. So now this could be 1, this could be 2, this could be 3, this could be 4 or 5, right? But as a result, I want to show onto the screen whether it belonging to the first class or second class and third class and fourth class. So in coding, I cannot remember. So I have stored all of them into a predicted class, predicted array, so that I can finally construct one confusion matrix. Okay. So actual labels, predicted labels of, suppose I'm testing for 10 images, suppose. Now for 10 images, I have predicted the classes and I know exactly what exact label of those 10 images are. Then I have used one function called plot confusion matrix. Okay. Now this one will plot a confusion matrix of all of them, similar to like this. Okay. Somewhat similar to like this, a confusion matrix. Okay. So like this, you can train your classifier. That means basic steps. Get your image. Okay. Get the data, get the features through any model, whatever you know. Once the features are ready, represent them in a proper format. Here I have used bag of words. Okay. Once it is constructed, bag of words is constructed, apply any SVM technique. It could be a binary classifier, it could be a multi-classifier, it could be a neural network, it can be a decision tree, any other. Okay. Whatever classifier you want to use, you can replace that in this place instead of SVM. Okay. So now it's not only specific to images. You can do this step to any data type, whatever feature sets you have, whatever field you are working on. Okay. Only thing is you need to get the features somewhat similar to this. Okay. Get the features and apply the ML technique. Okay. ML technique. Right. So this is your normal ML on general features, handcrafted image features extraction. Okay. Now let's see the same process. What will happen? How do I replace this entire code using deep learning techniques? Okay. Now, as I said, in deep learning, you need not extract the features, right? So this feature extraction block and this clustering block, it doesn't exist in deep learning, because the block which is going to be present here, that itself extracts the features of all whole image, and they are represented in a format, and then a classifier is applied. Okay. So these three blocks are clubbed into one, deep learning or convolution neural network. Okay. Convolution neural network. So you need not do feature extraction manually. Okay. So let's see how does that work. Okay, now this is the process which has been discussed already in the last yesterday's lecture. So I'm not going into depth, but you can say that I have the image, I have the convolution layers, pooling layers, convolution layer 2, then pooling layer 2, and so on. So this like this, you have multiple layers, and finally you have the classifier, fully connected layer and classifier layer. Okay. So to do that, this is how you construct your layers first, right? The first step applying for convolution neural network is, first you need to construct the layers, what exactly you want to make. Okay. So my layers are, now this is not going to look into what images are and how much size do we have to convert into grayscale. Nothing is done, only the layers construction you have to make it first. So I have constructed the layers here as input layer, which must be of size 2828 and 1 dimension. That means I'm accepting only grayscale images. Okay, I'm accepting only grayscale images. Now this is my convolution layer 1. This ReLU, max pooling, batch normalization has been discussed already, so I'm not going into depth, right? So now this is your layer 1, then layer 2, then layer 3. So I have one convolution layer, this 3 combinedly one layer, second layer, third layer. At the end, I have a fully connected layer, softmax layer combination. Okay, so like this, I have the layer constructions. Now these layers need some parameters to be set. Okay, now those parameters can be set here through options. Okay, how many EPOs do I need, and how much? What is the initial rate, accuracy rate, and so on. So you can choose accordingly for your training model. These parameters can be modified according to your choice. Once they are done, so you can see the coding. Okay, let me show in coding itself. So this one. See the coding for now for this is for only classifier CNN. Okay. Now here you can see okay, I have cleared the cleared first. Then I'm taking the data source where exactly the data source is my data source. Okay, folder of my complete data set. Then all of them must be of size. Resize all the images to 28 cross 28. I'm resizing all the images. Okay, so you can see I have at the rate I am resize, I am read of location. So whatever images I have there in the data set, all of them I'm resizing to the size 28 cross 28. Okay, now as you can see, we need to make it labeling also. So we have here label count. Right now, in general, in any classification model, you need to have two things. One is the training data and test data, right? So some of the data sets are available individually, but if they are not individually given to you, then you can divide your data itself into training and testing, right? So that can be done with this command. Okay, so these are my whole images, and 0.8 indicates 80% I'm taking into training set, and remaining 20% I'm taking into test set. Okay, all the images in each category, it's not about the total images. In each category, 80% of images belongs to training data set, and 20% of the images goes to validation data set. That means test data set. Okay. Now, once I done that, I have splitted the data. Now, this has no relation. It is not taking any input. I have just constructed the layers, and I have set some options. Okay. These are the CNN layers. So these layers depends on what exactly the CNN model you have used. Is it your self CNN model? The one which is proposed here is a self CNN model. We didn't use AlexNet and so on. So you can have here AlexNet architecture, ResNet architecture, GoogleNet architecture, any architecture, whichever you want to work on, you can replace that here. Okay. So once it is done, accordingly, you need to set the operations. Now, once both are done, you can see here, I'm training the model. Train model, train network. IMDS is my train data set, 80% of images. What are the layers through which I have to train my model, and these are my options. What are the options? How many poses it has to run, and so on. So I'm training my model on these options, on these layers. So images, what are layers to be performed, and what are all the operations. Okay. Now I have trained my model. So now model is net trained and it is in the variable net. Okay, in the net. So I'm saving it. So this is a command to save this train model. Right. Now, once it is saved, you can use this train model to any classification images, to any other data set. Okay. To any other data set, you can use it. No need to work only on this particular data set. It can suit for any other data set, provided that data set is similar to the one that this model has been trained. Okay. Now, once it is model has been built, then the last step is classify based on the test images, right? Classify based on the test images. So I'm using here classify function on the train model. I have a model train, and this is, as I said, 20% images of my data set, right? So 20% of images are taken on the model net. I'm classifying, right? So it is going to predict the class for each and every image which is in the test set. Okay, each and every image in the test set, it will predict a class. So that is going to be stored in Y predict. Right now, you know the Y prediction, and already if you know the exact prediction of these images, then finally what you're going to do at the end, you need to find out the calculus accuracy, and at the end you need to find plot the function. Okay, plot the confusion matrices. So as we have done in the normal ML technique, the same function you can use here with the parameters YPred, and you can plot a confusion matrices. Okay, confusion matrices. I'm not running these codes right now because it will take much time, and it cannot be completed within this 1 hour actually, because my system configuration is very low, so it cannot show the results immediately. It will take around 1 hour to complete, because you have many layers here. Okay, in this example, in this small example itself, we have 3 layers in the first 3 layers here, and then followed by 3 layers here, and then followed by 3 layers. So it is going to take huge time, and there is a huge data set also. So it takes around more than 1 hour to complete on my machine, until and unless if it is not a GPU based. Okay, so that is how I'm not running it, but this is how you can run your own models on any data set. Just build the layers and followed by the setting of the options, and then call the train model. And then on the splitted data, test data, you can classify your model. Okay. So this is how you can perform, and at the end you will get some confusion matrices similar to this and to this. Now, I just want to end up with this session by just giving one more instruction that what all I discussed just now, it's completely on the coding part, right? I've coded lots of lines here. I don't know how many could understand what I have done in this particular coding, and similarly in the classifier, right? So, but if you don't want to code, there is one more option in MATLAB where you can see the apps button on the top. Okay, there is an apps button. On that, you can go for this classification learner. So it's a GUI tool, GUI, graphical user interface tool, wherein you can click it and you can import some data. That means for this classifier, the thing is that already the features must be ready with you. Okay, it cannot extract the features. Already the features must be ready with you. Once the features are ready, you can use that classifier model, like the one I'll show you here. Taking too much time to open. So you can okay, it's not running up still. So you can load the feature set vector, something similar to, okay, like this. You will have the feature vector ready. Now, once this feature vector is ready, you can go with classifier tool of MATLAB. Then upload that feature vector. Okay, upload that feature vector Let me see if I have got it. Here. So now load that feature vector and you have lots of options to train. See here, we have many things like you can test that with using KNN or decision tree based training you can do, KNN you can do, and neural networks you can do, artificial neural networks you can apply. So there are multiple options to be applied on that particular feature vector, right? Only thing is you need to get the feature vector and use this GUI tool of MATLAB. Okay. Now that GUI tool is capable to represent your data something like this, and it can find out the ML technique. It can classify either through tree based or SVM based, and in SVM also depending on different kernel functions like linear SVM, quadratic SVM, cubic SVM, and so on. So you can classify that particular feature vector data using any machine learning technique, which is already available in Google MATLAB. Okay, so you can see if I train with all the trained models, you can see that with the tree it has given 67% accuracy, and with SVM it has given around 70% accuracy with linear SVM. Okay, and when we have changed to quadratic SVM, it is again different, right? So like this, you can train your feature. You can classify using ML techniques. Once your feature vector is ready through this classifier app. Okay. Now you can plot the confusion matrices also directly in the classifier app. Currently my machine is very slow, so I couldn't show them all of them on the MATLAB tool. But if you are willing to work, you can go with this tool. It is very friendly. You can get it. So let's say I'm taking one file. Let it be. So if anybody wants to work on this, you can mail me. And if you have any queries also, my contact number is there with everyone. So if you want to work on MATLAB and specifically in these two tools, I can help you in this regard. So that's it from my side for today. I just wanted to give a basic introduction on how do we use MATLAB for feature extraction and classification, both in normal ML technique and in deep learning technique. Okay, so that's all from my side. If anybody has any questions,